What's up, Professor Wergelees here. We just finished creating the new table. We've added new columns to it. We have a new users table that's able to collect all the data from the create users form. So we'll come back to the form. Okay, we have all this data now. You'll see when I click the submit button, it goes to CreateUser.php. So let's go over to CreateUser.php and look at the code in that file. So I'll go over to CreateUser.php, do a view and edit. Now in CreateUser.php, it's the same as before. We're going to use session variables. If they've already logged in, there's no reason to allow them to create a user. So we'll go ahead and redirect them to page 1. If they haven't created an account or logged in, we'll grab the action. Now the action in the new form is not do log in, it's do create. So I'll change this to do create. And instead of handling the login, we're going to handle the create user account. Okay, so we're going to handle creating a user. Okay, so maybe I just call this create underscore user. Okay, because we're actually going to create the user. Make sure you change the function name here too. And you'll see here in the code, I've already had this pre-written to save some time. I need to grab all of those elements on the form. And the way you grab them is based off the name. So if the name is empty, I'm going to default to an empty string. Otherwise, actually grab the name they entered in on the form. So I'll grab the first name, last name, username, password, the confirmed password, the birth date, and the email. Okay, I'm going to print all of these out, and we'll go ahead and do an exit here. Okay, we'll do an exit and make sure we're able to grab all the data. So I'll update the code on the server, come back, make sure you go to the right directory. Okay, so let's see here. I will go to the third directory, create user, and we'll go into the login form. Okay, so let's see. Might be some problem. We'll check that in a second. Here's the link I created. So I can click not a user. Okay, it's going to go to HTTPS. Here's my create your account form. So I can type in some data. Let's say Nick. Type in Nick for everything. Okay, put in a date. Put in an email. Click on submit. And you should be able to see that data print out. Okay, this data will print as long as these keys reference the name on the form. So to go back to the form, here's first name. That should be case sensitive to this right here. If I go back, you'll see last name, username, password. Okay, these need to be case sensitive to these keywords here. Once I can print them out, I can continue. So you see I'm also building this in incremental steps. Make sure you can receive the data. Once you can receive the data, build the query. Once the query successfully runs, then execute the query. Okay, so let's build the query, and we'll do this step by step. So it's going to be in this if statement. If I can grab the data, and as long as the passwords are the same, so I'll do a string compare with the password and the confirmed password. Now here in a little bit, I'm going to compare this on the front end. But it's a good idea to also compare it on the back end. If these two strings are equal, it's going to return 0. And if they're equal, then I'm going to connect to the database. There's no reason to connect to the database if they didn't type the passwords to be the same. Now, later we're going to check it on the front end. You can't check it too much. So go ahead and check it on the back end as well. Once the passwords are the same, I'll grab the credentials. I'm going to connect to the database. And if I can connect, great. If not, display an error and exit. If I can connect, we're going to escape all the characters, which we'll do in a second, and I need to build the query. Okay, so first let's escape all the characters we're going to insert to make sure they can't do SQL injections. Let's see, we have first name, last name, username, password, birth date, and email. So I'm going to do this for all of them. Let's see, we have first name, last name, username, password, birth date, and email. Okay, so switch all this up. First name, last name, username, password, then we had birth date and email. Okay, save it. And now we're going to, let's make sure that this works. And then we'll build the query. Okay, so I'll execute this, do a refresh. Okay, let's see here, not a user. Type in a bunch of data. We're checking the passwords now, so we want to make sure that's correct. But we can test that if statement. Okay, that's the if statement. So let's see, if the passwords don't equal 0, it comes to this right here. So actually we should give them a better error message. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's say login error. This one would be if the passwords don't match. So we'll say passwords did not match. Okay, refresh the page. Come back here, do a refresh. You'll see that error here, passwords don't match. So if I come back, and actually we want to display it on this page here. So instead of the login form, we'd redirect them to our CreateUser form. So let's see, we didn't update the code. Okay, let's try it again. There we go, passwords don't match, okay? So if the passwords match and this runs, okay, let's try and make sure this runs. So let's put the passwords matching. So I'll just do 2 passwords here. Passwords match. Okay, so it worked. The code didn't crash. We'll continue. If the code were to crash, so let's say I misspelled this right here, I missed an I, you'll actually get an internal 500 error. So if I do a refresh, you'll see I got a 500 error. That's a syntax error. If I want to find the syntax error, I need to SSH to my terminal. So if you get this 500 error, look for a syntax error, run it through the command line, try to compile your code. Once the code's working, we can continue. Okay, so we'll build the query in the next video, and then we'll execute the query and insert that new user. So continue to